Well, thank you all so very much for opening up the LaRose Community Center and for turning out in such a great number to represent not just yourself, but your neighbors and your extended family and people that you know that are working today and just couldn't get off in the middle of the day. And so I really appreciate you all being here because we need your voice to be heard today. I am going to introduce our wonderful guest and our helper, Ken Feinberg, in just a minute and give you a little background about him. And he's going to come up here, and it really is an opportunity, as we've said, our parish presidents, for you to really have an opportunity to speak to him directly. But before I do, I want to just say a few words about where we all are. We are experiencing an unprecedented ecological and environmental challenge to the place that we love. Many of us, many of you, have not only grown up here, but your grandparents, your great-grandparents are from here. You've worked hard, you've built a life that you love. You could have left if you wanted to, but you've called South Louisiana home for many years. Some of you have brought your children here. I met with some of the children that are taking camp and swimming lessons right outside of this facility, and two little girls came up to me. They couldn't have been more than about 10, and they said, "Senator, my mama's cleaning up the oil." I said, "Sweetheart, we're all cleaning up this oil. We're trying to get it out of our marsh and keep it from hitting our beaches and wrecking the life that we love." And we have a special message, of course, to the people of the United States, because in this area, we are a working coast. Our coastal industries are very integrated. We have the oil and gas industry, the fishing industry, the boat building industry, the navigation industry, recreational fishing, ecotourism, and tourism generally. And we all work and live together and love this place. And our industries have been, for the most part, very balanced. As some people know, all people know here, but people are learning, some of the best fishing, right, is around the rigs, most days, not today. But most days, the best fishing is around the rigs. So our fishermen are out of work because of this terrible, uncontrolled oil spill, and probably a great deal of negligence, and that will be decided in court on the part of a company that has worked in the Gulf for many years and actually may employ some of you, but nonetheless, BP's accident, we lost 11 good men on that rig. They left behind 21 children. And I've met with many of their spouses, and they've shared with me their personal stories of loss and grief. So we remember them, and we'll always remember them. And we know the thousands of people that work in dangerous situations, but do it voluntarily for all sorts of good reasons, making a living, providing the oil and gas that our country needs, securing our national security, and we're proud on most days here in Louisiana about what we do. But this is something that we haven't faced before. In the entire decade, in the last decade, this industry has spilled, according to the records that I've seen, less than 7,000 barrels of oil in the Gulf in 10 years. You know, we can clean up that. We can skim it. But this oil is leaking that amount probably every few hours and has for days. And we haven't been able to find a way to stop it yet. That's a story and a subject for another day. But this is unprecedented. And many of our people have been put out of work, and there are a lot of questions about when we can go back to work. There are a lot of questions about what will our marsh look like if the oil ever does stop. Can we clean it up? Do we have the science and the technology? We will try today to answer as many of those questions as we can. But what we're really here to focus on is what you need right now to keep yourself and your family and your home and your business functioning and operating. We don't want anyone to have to declare bankruptcy. We don't want anyone to have to lose their business. We don't want anyone in this room that has done nothing wrong to be harmed by what has happened on this Deep Horizon rig and the operators of BP and Anadarko who are responsible. Now, BP has said, and I want to give them credit from day one, that they are going to pay every injured party. And luckily for us, this is a big company and it makes a lot of money. So the President of the United States negotiated with them just a few days ago to set aside $20 billion to take care of your families, your businesses, and for families and businesses not just from Texas to Louisiana, but Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida. Lots of different kinds of businesses. And the President then, after setting aside, got the BP to set aside $20 billion, which is what they're going to try to set aside so far. That's not a cap, a start. He then reached to a man, Ken Feinberg, who I want to introduce to you right now. Ken Feinberg started out, of course, as a lawyer and as a professional mediator, but he mediated the Agent Orange settlement with 200,000 Vietnam veterans. Some of you will remember that. Some of you fought in Vietnam yourself, of course, know people that did. That was very tough to negotiate. There were lots of conflict about that. He helped negotiate that and help those families to find peace and justice, and those veterans. And then when the two towers collapsed in New York, President and others reached out to Ken and the mayors of New York and the area and said, Ken, would you come help the victims of 9/11 and their families try to find justice? And he negotiated lots of different kinds of settlements regarding the firefighters and those that lost their lives in New York. So I want you to know that the President and others have sent to you a very able man. But you know, he's human like we are, and he needs our help. So I'm going to ask Ken Feinberg to come up here and bring him to you. I've got a lot of confidence in him. Many people have confidence in him, and I'm proud to say that he told me this morning that this has been his 4th visit in a week to the Gulf Coast. He's just been on the job a week, so be a little patient with him, okay? He's just been on the job a week. He's already been to the Gulf 4 times. He's going to do his work from here. He's already met the kitchen crew. He's already talked to Miss Rose and Miss Gladys that fixed a little lunch for him, and they told him a little bit about what he needs to do. So he's already been hearing from some of us about what he needs to do. But I promise you, as I bring him up, I am and your delegation is going to do everything we can to get this moratoria adjusted so our people can get back to work, but we can make sure we have the greatest safety we can in the Gulf, to get our fishermen back fishing, to accelerate revenue sharing so that we can share in the revenues that this industry produces and restore our coast, Charlotte, and not have to keep retreating from the coast. There are lots of things that we're going to try to do in Washington, but one of the first ones right now is to get this claims process fixed and accelerated so our people can receive justice. And as he's coming up, Ken, if you'll start walking up, I also want Mr. Darrell Willis to stand, who is with BP. Darrell, would you stand? He's a graduate of the University of New Orleans, and he is the top claims person for BP. But Ken Feinberg has $20 billion, and it's his job to give it out. One of the ladies in the back said she's been looking for a rich man. She just might have found one. So, Ken, I'm going to turn this over to you. God bless, and let's give him a strong and warm Louisiana welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Why am I here today? I'm here for 2 reasons. First, Senator Landrieu asked me to come. Now, when Senator Landrieu asks you to do something, you do it. And it didn't take her long to be the first senator, the first elected official, to ask me to come to the Gulf and meet with actual citizens confronting this disaster. And I'm glad to honor that request and be here today. The second reason I'm here is because a program like this cannot be designed or administered from Washington. You have to come down here hear what people say, take the time to listen. It's the only way. You can't send surrogates, you can't send other people. I learned that from 9/11. When I went to New York and the Pentagon and Shanksville, and you have to listen to what people have to say. Now, in one sense, this program with the $20 billion starts off, I have a much easier task than with these other disasters like Agent Orange and 9/11, and that's because, give BP and Darrell Willis some credit. They have a program up and running. It's not perfect. We have to improve it. Darrell will tell you we have to improve it. But at least I hit the ground running with 14 different claims centers in Louisiana, about 25 in the entire Gulf area, over $120 million already paid out. It makes my job somewhat easier, the challenge somewhat easier, because of what Darrell and BP have done to date. BP's claims process is not perfect, but it's a beginning. And I am not going to reinvent the wheel. I'm building on what's already been accomplished. Now, what will the plan be? You guys need certainty. Let me tell you the plan. Right away, today, yesterday, the day before, tomorrow, you can continue to go and see Darrell and walk into a BP claims facility, file your claim, get interim emergency compensation if your claim is corroborated and eligible. That won't change. Over the next 30 days, BP, Darrell, will move back, and this $20 billion program will replace the BP program. What that really means is the BP sign will change to the Gulf Coast Feinberg sign. But we're not going to close down those facilities. We're not going to stop the cash from flowing. We're going to transition from the BP program to the Gulf Coast program, independently administered by me. I am not a government official. I am not a BP official. The administration and BP agreed that there ought to be an independent person with experience and credibility to design, implement, and administer the program. That's what I plan to do. I will keep the people that are already working on this program. I will add additional people. But the additional people I add must come from the region. They got to be people. They have to be local people that are trusted, that know their neighbors, that understand better than I ever could exactly what the needs and wants are of the people in the locale. Darrell grew up in this area. Darrell understood. I have to make sure that the people on the ground that are evaluating the claims are local, diverse, understand, and are sensitive to those needs. I pledge I will do that. Now, how will the program work? I will tell you exactly how I envision this program working. Senator Landrieu is absolutely correct. BP and the administration agreed $20 billion will be set aside for all purposes: claims, cleanup, resource recovery. $20 billion set aside, $5 billion a year for 4 years to deal with the spill. if the $20 billion is insufficient. BP has agreed to replenish the fund. So it is not a capped $20 billion. And it is not $20 billion just for claims. There are other purposes that will be served with these funds. But the $20 billion is not all there is if more is needed. Next, I can't help any of you if you don't file a claim. I only can get involved if you see the wisdom and have the foresight to file a claim with this program. Now, you go to your local claim office. In about 2 weeks or 3 weeks, you'll be able to do it online if you want, all electronically with your computer. But if you don't want to do it with a computer online, go to the local claim office. We'll have the list. Darryl probably knows it by heart. We'll have the list of claim offices. Go to the claim office, fill out a claim. Now, when you fill out a claim, you'll need to give the claims manager, a local person, corroboration of your claim. You'll have to say, I'm out of work and I'm losing $5,000 a month in wages. Here is evidence of the $5,000. Here is my checkbook. Here is my employee canceled check. Here is my evidence that I can. Minimal corroboration. You don't have to be an accountant. Minimal corroboration of your claim. That claim, I assure you, will be immediately processed. Maybe on the spot, maybe a few days, not weeks. But that corroborated eligible claim will be paid promptly. BP's been paying those claims for wage loss fairly quickly. We will accelerate the process not only for individual wages, but where we really need to accelerate the process is business interruption for small businesses who haven't been able to get paid as quickly as they should. So, we'll take that claim. We will process that claim, whether it's an individual claim, whether it's a small business claim, whether it's a larger business claim, as long as the claim is eligible, as long as it is corroborated with something that is sufficient, those claims will be processed in a matter of days. In a matter of days. Now, these are emergency payments. When you get this money by filing a claim, there is absolutely no obligation on your part. Mr. Feinberg, when I get this money, do I have to give up my right to sue if I want to go to court? Absolutely not. Do I have to give up other rights? Absolutely not. This money is emergency money designed to tide you over until the leak stops and we can evaluate your long-term needs, which I'll get to in a minute. So there is no obligation that you forfeit by accepting this emergency money. Now, I thought this was a great idea. Darryl and I were talking about how we'll provide people in this room emergency money for 1 month, then you come back another month, and then if you need a third month, well, you know Senator Landrieu. Senator Landrieu took me aside and said, why are you making people come back every month? Why don't you provide them a lump sum, certain payment for 3 months or 4 months or 5 months? It is always wise to listen to Senator Landrieu. And that is exactly what this new facility plans to do. That makes more sense. Why not? This emergency is going to last a while. The oil is still flowing. Why not come up with a more efficient mechanism so that people don't have to come back month to month? They may want to. They may want to come back month to month. I can give you an example of somebody that wants to come back month to month. Mr. Feinberg, I need $5,000. That's what I'm earning. That's what I've lost. And next month, $5,000. But after that, my business is seasonal. I would have earned $7,000 or $8,000 a month. Well, you may not want a lump sum payment for $5,000. You may prefer to come back. That's your option. That's your option. But the important point is that these emergency payments will be available with minimal but necessary minimal corroboration without any obligation on your part. Now, what happens after the leak stops? And now we have a better handle on the nature of the damage. I anticipate the following. Each of you who received emergency assistance will now come to the facility to see me. And we will try and calculate what your long-term loss is. Not just right now, but for the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 3 years. Not easy to do. A murky crystal ball. But we did it in 9/11. We did it in Agent Orange. We'll do it here. Mr. Jones, your business has suffered as a result of the leak. We calculate that for probably 2 years, your business is going to be curtailed by 60%. We will give you a choice. A choice. You can either take this check from the Gulf facility in the amount of, $28,000, $92,000, $68,000. You can take that check. If you take the check, think it over. Better talk it over with your husband and your wife. Think it over. You can take this check. But if you take the check, you sign this piece of paper. That's full satisfaction of your claim. You can't sue BP. That is your voluntary choice. The facility will be very generous. The facility will bend over backwards, as the senator said, to give you total compensation for your loss. You're going to have to document that loss. You're going to have to corroborate that loss. But if you want this check, here it is. And in return, now, unlike the emergency payments, now you sign, you will not sue. My objective here is to convince everybody. Enter the fund. There's no obligation. Get emergency funding. There's no obligation. Ultimately, down the road, 60, 90 days, 120 days, 6 months from now, take this check. We think it's fair. Think it over. Talk to your family, your lawyer, your accountant, your priest, your rabbi. Take the check, and only then give up your right to litigate. If you decide that you don't like the amount, that you'd rather hire a lawyer and litigate, go ahead. You don't have to make that choice till you see what the amount is. Should you litigate? Is it a good idea? Absolutely not. It's a mistake. It's a mistake to litigate. But that's your choice. If you litigate, years of litigation, years, you may not win in your litigation against BP. And if you do win, wonderful. Give 40% to your lawyer. So my advice, I mean, I love the trial lawyers. I'm a lawyer myself. My advice is this facility, this program that's been established, which I hope and pray will be very, very claimant friendly. I believe that what BP has done with this administration is absolutely the right way to go. And I will ask Senator Landrieu and everybody in this parish, parish president, everybody, to encourage all of you to at least file the claim. Because I can't do a thing if you don't file. And what we're going to be doing with Darrell over the next few weeks, not months, is make it even easier to file. Electronically, in person, we'll beef up the support staff. Darrell's done, and BP has done, an excellent job so far. There's a great deal more to be done. Now, a few other points, then we'll take questions. What are the problems with this program? What are the challenges? I don't like to use the word problem, but what are the challenges that we confront? Well, one challenge is it would sure be nice if the oil stopped leaking. It's very, very difficult to come up with a long-term program to try and calculate your ultimate damage if the oil's still flowing. Mr. Feinberg, I have an oyster bed. Right now, it's safe. There's no oil there yet. But I can't come up with a long-term damage forecast because tomorrow the oil may still be spilling and it'll reach my oyster bed. So as long as the oil is spilling, it's very, very difficult to sit with any of you and calculate your long-term damage because you don't know when the oil's going to stop. That's problem number one in terms of a challenge. That's one problem. Then there's a second very fascinating problem. It's a very real problem, and that is this. Do I have a valid claim if my damage is an indirect result from the spill? You know, it's one thing if you're a shrimper or a fisherman or you own a motel on the water. Those claims are relatively straightforward. Relatively straightforward. Mr. Feinberg, I own a restaurant in Boston. And I have the best shrimp scampi in the city. And I get my shrimp from Louisiana. Now I can't get that shrimp. And you know what? My clientele aren't coming to the restaurant. Where's my money? Now you see, that's a problem. That's a problem. It's one thing if Louisiana residents are the direct victims of this spill. What makes my job a little bit more complicated is when you start getting indirect claims from 48 other states. You know, I make T-shirts for this guy in Mobile, Alabama. We love Mobile. That guy can't get those T-shirts. Nobody loves Mobile these days, so I'm not making T-shirts in Boston, Massachusetts for this. Where's my money? You see, those claims are going to be much more complicated. I will likely do what I did with the 9/11 fund, what Congress instructed me to do then, and look to the law of Massachusetts. Would the law of Massachusetts allow that claim? I doubt it very much. I doubt it very much. This money should be reserved for people who have eligible, valid claims. But those are some of the challenges. Here's the final challenge. Mr. Feinberg, I own a boat here in Louisiana, and my fishing has been curtailed by 100%, 90%, 70%, 50%. All right, here's your emergency money pursuant to the program. Now let's sit down and calculate what your total damage should be estimated with this check. Well, all right, but I got to tell you, it's not so easy to calculate the future damage, even when the oil stops. I'm not sure how long I won't be able to have 100% fishing. I'm just not sure. Well, let's try and come up with an expert view. 2 years, 3 years, 1 year, 6 months, 3 months, 4 years. Let's try. Mr. Feinberg, if you can give me the right amount, if it's a credible amount that I can accept in return for waiving my right to sue, I'll take that check. How we calculate those amounts in the long term, going to be difficult. Now, are we going to calculate business interruption loss, lost profits, or one shrimpman, one fisherman at a time, one motel at a time? Well, that's what BP's been doing, or beginning to do. Senator Landrieu takes me aside. Ken, why don't you develop a methodology for determining loss that is applicable to all fishermen, all shrimpmen, all motels? Instead of doing these one at a time, isn't that very, I mean, I'm not a lawyer, Ken, but isn't that sort of inefficient? Why don't you come up with sort of a clustered, an approach that would encompass all of a type of profession? Wouldn't that make it easier, more systematic, and fairer, consistent across the board? That's exactly what we're going to do. That's exactly what we're going to do. So I've tried over the last 20 or 30 minutes to give everybody at least a basic understanding of how this program's going to work. I do not claim to have all the answers yet. I said to Senator Landrieu, Senator, maybe I ought to wait until I have more meat on the skeleton of this program, till we know for sure exactly how it's going to work, where I can hand out claim forms right at the town hall meeting. Ken, don't wait. Come right away. I'll join you. Come down and hear before you finalize the plan. Come down and hear what my constituents and my people have to say. I said, okay, I'll do that, and you think it's not too early? I thought I'd come a little later. And she said, and you'll come a little later, too. You'll come earlier, and you'll come later. Okay, Senator Landrieu, I will do that. So that is sort of what I really wanted to do first, was provide everybody with some degree of certainty as to how this program in the next 30 days is likely going to work. And kudos and praise to Darrell, to BP for what they've done so far. There is absolutely no sense at all driving BP into bankruptcy. That would be a disaster. A disaster. We've got to find a way to pay people quickly. avoid paying people that shouldn't be paid, and move this program forward as fast as possible.